I've always said this about boxing films. The story can be there, the story can be good, there can be tension, but it's all about what the director does in the ring. Does he do something different that's going to stick in your mind? Hey everyone, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing Creed 3, which is Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, and I am just so very proud of him. I have followed his career since I saw him, and I think that awkward moment, I didn't watch The Wire or Friday Night Lights, but he's been in the business for a very long time, and I finally started to take notice. Even in Fantastic Four as Johnny Storm, even though we don't talk about that movie, he was really good, and I liked his Johnny Storm. I think it had potential, but I have just been so proud of him and watching him work, and obviously his turn as Eric Killmonger in Black Panther was fantastic, but with Creed, he just became this entirely different actor. And I love the Creed trilogy. I think it was so smart to bring in Apollo Creed's son. I think it worked with Rocky's story as well, because Rocky Balboa wasn't the best ending to Rocky's story, to be perfectly honest. I didn't really like Rocky Balboa, the sixth film. It just worked because of Apollo Creed's connection with Rocky Balboa, and obviously what happened in the ring was a bit tough for everyone to handle, and I think it was entirely necessary for Rocky's arc to kind of train Adonis, and it was just a perfect story to bring back the franchise, to revive the franchise. And I've always felt like the Creed films have been on another level entirely than the Rocky franchise. I'm not saying that the Rocky franchise wasn't good. Obviously, I'm not saying that. It started it all, and it did incredible things for the world of boxing and inspired so many people to get into boxing. And it's one of the best sports movies of all time. Even you could say it is the best sports movie of all time. Let me know in the comments below if you feel that way. But I just think it was a natural progression to the franchise to have Creed, and Michael B. Jordan was perfectly cast. No one else could have directed Creed 3. I think it was the perfect time for him to step up to the plate, to take on this challenge. He's been in the industry long enough to want to take a stab at directing, and I think this was absolutely perfect. You could see those anime inspirations, those touches. I've always said this about boxing films. The story can be there, the story can be good, there can be tension, but it's all about what the director does in the ring. Does he do something different that's going to stick in your mind? And, Ryan Coogler did it, Stephen Caple Jr. did it with Creed 2, and now Michael B. Jordan added his own flair. All three of them added so much to the ring. And I think that's where the importance is, especially in Creed 3, you have these like really tight close-ups. You're feeling these punches. The camera's kind of like moving with the punches, and that's like, it's hard to film that. It's hard to like not actually punch people, but make it look believable. I think visually it's a step up from, Creed and Creed 2, just because of how like even vibrant the colors were. The cinematography is pretty strong. I love the lighting within the ring. There were some really, I'm not going to spoil the third act. That final fight was just fantastic. The choices made really strong. But what I loved with the visuals, and this is something that hasn't really happened in the Rocky films or in the previous two Creed films, is that Mike wanted to have the audience in the mind of the boxer. And what he did was that he would cut to the eyes, and then he would cut to the point that he wanted to take the next punch, and he was thinking about it, he was overthinking it. The editing was really good in this, so that goes hand in hand, because if the editing wasn't as strong, you wouldn't be feeling that level of tension and anticipation for the next hit. So everything has to be tight knit, and that is what came with the camera work, the way Mike wanted to do this with the anime inspiration and the quick editing. And I think that it really worked in the ring. So it kind of felt like Sherlock Holmes a bit, trying to put the pieces together where he needs to move next. They showed that, and I loved it. I just had so much fun with it. It's so engaging. I think the pacing was pretty strong, because once it got to that final fight, I was like, it's done. I said, this is the last fight. It felt so short. I'm like, why isn't there more of this? But at the same time, They gave us enough of this story to like really pack a punch, pardon the pun, but it's true. You have a beautiful, heartfelt story about these two brothers who went through so much stuff in their childhood. All of their past trauma is just repressed and pushed down. And then that's where the rage and the anger stems from. No matter how much you want to push it away and keep those skeletons in that closet, they're going to creep out at the worst time. They really are. And that's what it shows here. It shows the growth of Adonis Creed, the character development for Adonis Creed. Okay. It's just a perfect third installment to this trilogy and a beautiful addition to the Rocky franchise that I'm pretty sure Sly Stallone would be very proud of. Truly. On top of that, you have the family aspect that didn't really happen in the Rocky films. I didn't really have that connection to them. And within the Creed trilogy, you have Bianca and Adonis's love for each other and their relationship flourishing between Creed and then Creed 2 when they get engaged and they get married and then she's pregnant. And it's just like, you have all of that. You're growing with Adonis Creed, not only in his career, but in his family life. And that's why we're so attached to them. I know I am. It was just amazing to see the connection between Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan. Their chemistry is absolutely effortless and so natural. That's why this works. Relationships are hard if you're keeping stuff inside and you're keeping things from your partner. That's another thing that's added here. On top of that, he is a father. He is a father, and the storyline with his daughter, beautiful deaf representation within this film on such a grand scale that it just warmed my heart to have scenes filled with sign language naturally being integrated into this storyline. It's just a beautiful family unit. And the fact that Amara looks up to Adonis, you know, we see her watching his old fights and has a little bit of a fighter inside of her. I love that. Again, I have a very strong connection with my dad. So if I see a father-daughter relationship on screen that's just so beautiful and connected, and you know, they kind of get each other more than, you know, the mother would get their child, like it's just really close to home. And I loved it. I loved every single thing about this movie. It flowed so well. Now I'm gonna kind of segue into performances because Jonathan Majors wasn't playing around, fam. He was the big bad wolf. The one thing that Jonathan Majors does so incredibly well, and I said this in my Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania review, is that he can be very charming, very sweet, and very emotionally inviting. Like he'll understand you on that level. That is what he does. That makes him a very complex actor. He's very interesting to watch because he gives such nuanced performances, and you have to really look at his expressions. You have to look at the way he responds to his fellow actors on screen. His responses, his facial reactions are 100 times better than his pieces of dialogue sometimes. He's so in tune with Dame Anderson in this movie that I was laughing because of how much Dame didn't care. Dame did not care whatsoever. He knew he was the best. He got cocky afterwards. He got really intimidating, threatening, in your face. That's what Majors did. He had that look in his eyes. He was perfect. Again, another beautiful character added to the Rocky franchise. And I love that. I think Michael B. Jordan gave the best performance he's ever given in the Creed franchise. There's one particular scene that actually brought me to tears. This movie's very emotional. You can tell that Adonis is more seasoned. And there was one moment where you could tell that Michael B. Jordan, you know, he grew up, he's older, he's playing a father in this movie. And it's just wild to see how far he's come. And I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud of him. And then we have Tessa Thompson, like I said, beautiful, beautiful woman inside and out. Gave another fantastic performance. I think her performance in Creed 2 is a bit better than Creed 3, but she really is the glue to holding everything together. If it wasn't for Bianca, like Donnie would completely fall apart, to be perfectly honest. So there are a lot of great things in here that show how much Adonis has grown. And I think to have that in a third installment and have him, realize that keeping all of this bottled up is only going to make it 10 times worse. And I think it has a good message about boxing. It's not about violence. It's not throwing punches because you're angry, which he ends up teaching his daughter. And I think that was also a beautiful moment as well, to have that level of understanding and teaching that he's learned throughout his entire life in how to handle that and pass that down to the next generation. I think that was really strong as well. There's so many great things about this movie. I don't want this to end, but I think that they ended Creed 3 on a high note. I think that they ended Creed 3 in a way that they can tie Adonis's story into a nice little bow. It's very open-ended. They could make another one. They don't have to make another one. I think the Creed trilogy is perfect. It is one of the most perfect trilogies that does exist, and I'm just so happy for Michael B. Jordan. I really am. And now I'm going to do a little sidebar, because I've seen a lot of people say that, Rocky should have been in this one. So there are a lot of moving parts contractually with Sylvester Stallone. The story also didn't have a place for him. And I have to say that Sylvester Stallone did produce Creed 3. He did produce Creed 3. He still had a hand in this, maybe not as much as people would have wanted him to have a hand in this, because everyone's like, well, without, you can't have Creed without Rocky. But yes, you can. And if you really look at it, there's not really much for Sylvester Stallone's Rocky to do in Creed 3. When you watch it, you'll understand. I don't think it would have been necessary for him to be in this film, considering what it's about. It's about Donnie's past. Creed has always been about legacy. So it doesn't make sense for Rocky to be in this movie, considering that it's literally just all about Adonis. It's all about Donnie. You have to end the third installment focused on the Creed name, focused on Adonis, focused on the family. And I know that Rocky's his uncle. I get it, but he's technically not family at the same time. Sure, it was beautiful in the first two movies, but for Rocky to go back to his son at the end of Creed 2, his story's done. I don't want to say that about Sly. I love Stallone, don't get me wrong. He made one of the best franchises ever, but it's the fact that if he didn't go back to his son at the end of Creed 2, we would have had a different story entirely. It makes sense for them to close off with that. Even the tone of Creed 3 is completely different. And honestly, I didn't miss Rocky in this. And that just goes to show how much of this trilogy is on the shoulders of Michael B. Jordan. Adonis is in a very different position. He's retired. He's not in the ring constantly. What is Rocky's purpose in Creed 3? You're showing Adonis as this veteran now. He's won his belts over and over again. He's living this beautiful life with his family. He's running the gym. He has other fighters from the next generation coming up in the ring, training them. What's Rocky gonna do? I think that it just shows the beautiful cycle and progression of this franchise and what Adonis did. I'm giving Creed 3 a 4.5 out of 5. It is one of my favorite films of the year. I know it's March, but it is just so good. And this Creed trilogy has been top notch for me. I've praised it since day one. Everyone has done a fantastic job. I really liked Creed 3. It hit me in all the feels. And I watched it in IMAX. Highly recommend that you guys go see it in IMAX on the big screen. Go this weekend. Totally worth it. So please let me know which Rocky movie is your favorite, which Creed movie is your favorite. If you prefer Creed to Rocky, let me know in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.